Schneider Electric is proud to sponsor this podcast series. With a purpose to empower all to make the most of our energy and resources, our mission is to be your digital partner for sustainability and efficiency. At Schneider, we call this Life is On. Know more at se.com/au. My name is Jo Taranto and I'm joined today by Kate Maddy, Engagement Lead for Greater Melbourne Urban Water and System Strategy on behalf of the 4 Melbourne Urban Water Corporations, and Lisa Hocking, the Policy and Program Manager for the Gunaikurnai Land and Waters Aboriginal Corporation. And today we're talking about partnerships between water and traditional owner corporations. Thank you both for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jo.
I'll start with you, Lisa. How important is water to traditional owners, particularly in the context of urban water supplies?
Sure. Well, maybe if we start first of all, just how important is water to traditional owners? So traditional owners understand perhaps better than anyone, because they've been on country for tens of thousands of years, that water is life. Without water, there is no life. And then if you look at your urban water supplies, whether it's in a dam or whether it's in a stream, it's still the water of the custodians whose country it came from. It remains their water regardless of where it goes and how it's used.
And when an urban water environment, is that amplified, more complex?
It really depends on the individual traditional owner corporation on how they interact with water when it's in an urban environment. So some of the urban water that goes through country on Gunaikurnai country is quite visible, and traditional owners, still want to interact with those creeks and those streams. Some of it's sort of moved into a less natural sort of format, but it's what goes through the pipes is still the water. So whether it's in a river that is recognisable as a river, or whether it's coming out of a tap, it's still river water. Most of the time, it's still river water, still water from country.
Kate, you work on behalf of 4 Melbourne Urban Water Corporations.
That's right, Jo. So I'm working on the Water for Life strategy, or the Greater Melbourne Urban Water and System Strategy, and that's on behalf of Greater Western Water, Melbourne Water, South East Water and Yarra Valley Water, and that covers across the Greater Melbourne area.
And for water corporations, what are some of the challenges when you're seeking to involve traditional owners, particularly in strategies like the one you're working on?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jo. So I think one of the fundamental challenges for us is the challenge of how to work together when we haven't worked together before. So the water corporations are on a really steep learning curve. There's really strong intent to work with traditional owners in this space, but the challenge is the how. So you can have all the good intent in the world, but if you're not quite sure how to approach it, that's one of the key challenges, I think.
And the flip side, Lisa, what are the challenges for traditional owner corporations working with urban water corporations?
Sure. So I'm sure, as you can appreciate, the beasts that are urban water corporations are somewhat larger than what traditional owner corporations are. They have a lot of deliverables that they need to do, and timelines that are set by either legislation or practice in order to serve their customers. That doesn't necessarily fit within the priority setting of traditional owner corporations or the elders and the people who we represent. So we have to go in with our own prioritisation and our own objectives, and then try, I guess, through developing relationships, say, well, this is what's important to us. Where's the opportunity from what you're doing where we can further the objectives of in my case, the Gunaikurnai people?
You're listening to the Australian Water Association podcast series, and I'm speaking with Kate Maddy and Lisa Hocking. And so a partnership between your organisations has been developed. Can you tell us a bit about that, Kate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, from my personal perspective, a fantastic experience. It's certainly with the genesis, it was a bumpy start for us. So going to that how piece is working out the how to work together. But fundamentally, the key first step was actually understanding who we should be working with. And so we had originally established who we thought we should be working with based on traditional country boundaries, not appreciating that traditional country where water comes from wasn't necessarily aligned with our service boundaries. And so we did have a bumpy start in inadvertently excluding Gunaikurnai from those initial discussions. But I think the really rewarding piece for the partnership for us is that we've been able to move past that initial bump, shall we say, in the road and establish a really trusted and transparent relationship where we've co-developed some really great objectives for the Water for Life strategy that are going to deliver both great outcomes for the Water Corporation's customers, the community we serve, and also the traditional owner groups. And so it's been an incredibly rewarding experience to be working alongside Lisa on this.
And Lisa, how important is it getting past hurdles and bumps
Well,
in this process?
When Kate is talking about an oversight, basically I think 60% of the water that the Greater Melbourne area uses comes from Gunaikurnai country. So it was a pretty big oversight from the Gunaikurnai people's perspective.
From ours too.
To give the project and Kate credit, when they realised that, had that sort of light bulb moment, they did come swiftly to the Gunaikurnai Corporation and say, tell us what your values are for water. Tell us now. But we said, hey, hang on, that's not how we do business. We're either walking in a partnership with you. We're not giving over cultural values for someone else to determine what's important and what's not. And I think that was the reset that actually made a big difference to the whole project. But maybe I'm overstating it, Kate. What do you think?
No, absolutely. And I think from there we were able to co-design a really I can only speak from my perspective, obviously, but a really great process that was very collaborative and also just really respectful and understanding each individual corporation's needs and objectives, and then really working out what is the space we can work in together and where is there flex and where is there not. And that's, I think, part of the piece that got a good outcome.
So one of the first things that we did, and it was a little bit scary for me, because when I said, hey, you need to talk to the Gunaikurnai representatives, I trotted along to a meeting at the Melbourne Water Board table, which is like this great big polished thing that's 150 years old, and there's 12 people sitting around, and then there's me. So it was a little bit scary and daunting. But one of the things that we did in the reset was say, so what is the negotiables and what are the non-negotiables in this project? What can we actually achieve for the Gunaikurnai people? And because we had a pretty frank conversation and it needed it, then we were able to explore, can we do this or can we do that? So yeah, looking forward to the strategy when it comes out, Kate.
Me too.
Lisa, where is Gunaikurnai country?
Sure. So Gunaikurnai country is basically just outside the Greater Melbourne region, as it's called, starting at a town called Warragul, stretching up to snow country, the Australian Alps, Victorian share, along the ridgeline, going down to sea country through South Gippsland and then across to the Snowy River. So it's quite a large area, but it doesn't go in to the Greater Melbourne area, only its water.
And so, Lisa, you talked a little bit about that early stage. What does the partnership look like from a practical sense ongoing after you've ironed out or set up some kind of marks, some lines in the sand?
Yeah,
what happens
sure.
next?
So I think that, well, obviously, we're still working together on that particular project, but one of the strengths of a partnership is it shouldn't be project-based. It should become continual and ongoing, and through that it builds, and through that the opportunities for the rights holders, the traditional owners, build as well. But also, if it's done well, the benefits for the customers, the urban water customers, they get benefits from that as well. Because when you're talking about people who have managed water for so very long, if you listen, take a breath and listen to them, obviously you can often get much better outcomes than going down your own predetermined path.
And what about for you, Kate? Would you agree it's been much more than just a single project?
Oh, absolutely, Jo, and that's the intent. So one of the key things that we've co-developed together in the strategy development process is these principles for partnership, and really what we're looking for the outcome of this strategy, and to enable all of the outcomes that we've co-developed that we're seeking is that real sustained genuine partnership that moves beyond the trusted relationship of Lisa and I to an institutional, probably institutional is not quite the right word, but an organisational trust. And that I think will be the key piece, and hopefully the legacy of this particular strategy is setting up that much broader scope of a partnership arrangement.
You're listening to the Australian Water Association podcast series, and I'm speaking with Kate Maddy and Lisa Hocking. What do the next steps look like for both of you? Kate, first.
Absolutely. So with the finalisation of the strategy, really the key piece for implementation is around establishing those sustained and genuine partnerships so that we can realise the outcomes that we're seeking in that strategy. So that's the piece that I'm really excited about, is delivering the outcomes that we've identified that we as a collaboration need to deliver.
And what about for you, Lisa? What are you looking forward to?
Sure. I think that the strength that the partnership has really delivered is that it has given a voice to what the traditional owners, in my case again, the Gunaikurnai people, what they want for country, what they want for water that has left country. And a simple example is we've spoken about just identifying the water as it goes through the system as Gunaikurnai water, so that your householder has a knowledge, oh, that's come from Gunaikurnai country. It sounds like a small thing, but it's very, very symbolic for the Gunaikurnai people who didn't cede their rights, their sovereign rights.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can concur, that's a really exciting initiative that we've already started working on, and looking forward to seeing that being rolled out.
And how will you communicate that? That sounds like a really amazing piece to educate.
Well, it's not going to come out as a different colour from the tap.
Good.
The beauty about working with water corporations is they're really good at communications, so we're looking forward to some fancy technological way of describing that, and that we can then show our Elders Council and community that they can recognise that. But when the strategy comes out, there's really important things in there as well. Not that that's not, but there's some important things in there as well that really does progress the objectives for the Gunaikurnai people, plus the other mobs that have been involved in the strategy. And obviously when it's released, we can talk about that a bit more, but we're really excited about the future and what it might bring.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels like we're making a step change, Jo, and so I think we're all pretty excited about what the strategy can deliver.
So for other urban water corporations that might be considering this or should be considering this, what do they need to think about when reaching out for traditional owner corporations? I'm going to start with you first, Lisa, because I feel like you've lived this, for better or worse. Like there's been moments where it's been hard. So what do they need to do?
I think one of the primary things is come and talk to your traditional owner corporations early. As much advance notification as possible. True engagement with traditional owner communities takes time. Yarning takes time to do it properly and meaningfully. And we're incredibly lucky with GLAWAC, with my corporation that I work for, that we've got such good knowledge holders and background materials that we can draw on things. But if you're going into new territory, we need to check that with the elders. We need to check it with our board. We need to take the time it takes so we get to the right place. So time is number one. We've got to resource traditional owner corporations. As I said, we're not as thick on the ground as what the water corporations are. And if we need to go and talk to community, we need to have the time to do that. And sometimes we need to bring people in from different areas to get yarning circles and what have you. So we need a little bit of assistance with that. We need to have specific communication materials to help with that, not great wordy documents talking about pipes and infrastructure and what have you. In a way that's meaningful, which we can help with, but we need time to develop that as well. And I think that, as Kate was talking earlier, look at the co-design. Make sure that it's going to be something that you're walking the journey with the traditional owners, not telling them how you're going to do it, because that doesn't work. It tends to not have the outcomes. It tends to be a little bit peripheral consultation rather than reaching step change, which is where we're hoping this will be.
And for you, Kate?
Oh, absolutely. I'd concur with everything Lisa said. And if I can just add, for water corporations to understand who it is they should be talking to, it seems obvious, but there's that base level of understanding not only whose country you're considering, but whose country the water is coming from. And I think one of the other pieces is approaching those conversations with a flexible approach. You know, as Lisa said, if you can go with a position of co-design, it's about exploring things together and identifying what the opportunities that are aligned might be. And so from that perspective, you need to come in informed, but not presupposing what traditional owners may seek from an objectives perspective, but at least informed. So there's a huge command on traditional owner corporations at the moment. There's a lot going on in this space in Victoria. So it's almost, if I can put it simply, it's a what's in this for traditional owners that they might be interested in, but being willing to flex and explore and work through a process that works for both together.
I've been speaking with Kate Maddy and Lisa Hocking. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much, Jo.
Thanks, Jo.